Yesterday, we talked about some NHL stars that I believe have a chance to be traded over the offseason, and that video kind of got me thinking more and more about the offseason. And over the next couple of days, I plan on making my bold predictions video, bold offseason predictions. But before I do that, I want to react to some of your guys' bold offseason predictions. So that's exactly what we're going to do today. I made the post on the community tab really late last night, so even though it's kind of last minute, not a lot of time between when I made the post until now when I'm recording, but even with that being the case, you guys still left a ton of comments, a lot of really good ones, so I appreciate every single one of you guys who took the time to go and leave a bold prediction. If you're somebody who missed out on the community tab post and didn't see it, I'd still like to know your bold predictions for the offseason, so be sure to leave them down below in the comment section. Let's get things started. The first bold prediction comes from Kyle T, who says the Sharks will actually embrace a rebuild under a new general manager. I honestly hope you're right about this. With the core that they have, the Sharks really aren't going anywhere, and a rebuild will be tough because they have a lot of big contracts. You know, they got 2 forwards making $8 million plus with a lot of time left on their deals, 3 defensemen making $7 million plus, same case there, a lot of the years left on those deals. I really feel like the Sharks had a great opportunity leading up to the deadline before they re-signed Thomas Hertl or extended Thomas Hertl to really kickstart this rebuild, because they most likely could have got a pretty sizable return for Hertl. If the new GM does decide to embrace a rebuild, I'd be really interested to see what he does, because Erik Karlsson's contract, it's really not tradable. You can't really buy that contract out either. I cannot imagine anybody's taking on the Mark Edward Vlasic contract either, and you're not going to buy that out at least until like the final year of that deal. So the Sharks are definitely in a tough spot. I'm really interested to see what direction they decide to head, but like I said, I do hope you're right about this, because a rebuild for the Sharks has now been like 2-3 years overdue at this point. The next bold prediction we have comes from Adam Pepin, who says Bergeron signs 1 year with a cup contender and Pasta is traded. So we talked a little bit about the potential of David Pastrnak being traded in yesterday's video. You can go check that out if you have not already. But the idea of Bergeron signing a 1-year deal with a cup contender, I really just can't see it happening because of the things he said. He literally said he can't see himself playing anywhere else other than Boston. I really feel like if he decides not to come back to Boston, that he's just going to retire. I feel like it's either return to Boston on a 1 or 2 year deal or hang him up. I feel like that's what's going to happen. The thing about that though is Bergeron is still such a good player. He literally just won the Selke Trophy this season. He would greatly benefit any contending team if he were to sign with another team other than Boston, and I feel like Bergeron's the kind of player where he would fit literally anywhere he goes. He's not really a high maintenance guy or anything like that. So if Bergeron does maybe explore the idea of signing a short-term deal with a contending team, you can bet that any team in the league with the slightest bit of playoff aspirations are going to try to sign him. The next bold prediction we have comes from Jits, who says Patrick Kane waives his no movement clause and gets traded this offseason due to him having 1 year left on his contract and the direction the Blackhawks are heading towards. Now this is a really interesting one. Actually, today we just learned that apparently Alex DeBrincat is very available for trade. Frank Saravalli actually said, who's a very, very reputable insider, he said that it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when the Blackhawks trade Alex DeBrincat, which kind of confuses me a little because I feel like the Hawks should probably look to trade pretty much everyone else except Alex DeBrincat. He's kind of the guy I would expect them to build around, but if they do plan on embracing the rebuild, I feel like trading Patrick Kane heading into the final year of his contract would definitely make a lot of sense. I know it is a very expensive contract and not a lot of teams would be able to take on, $10 million plus, but since there is only 1 year left, the Hawks probably would be open to retaining a little bit, probably not half, but maybe like 30% of that contract, since they wouldn't have to do it for more than just 1 year. Moving on now to the next bold prediction. This one comes from San Jose Shark 88, who says William Nylander and Peter Mrazek will be traded for Tyler Bertuzzi and a 2nd round pick. As a Red Wings fan, I'm going to try not to be biased here. I do think William Nylander is a better player than Tyler Bertuzzi. He's also a younger player than Tyler Bertuzzi. He would fit the Red Wings timeline a little bit better. So those two in a 1-for-1 swap I don't think would make sense for Toronto, but in this case you'd be unloading the contract of Peter Mrazek and also getting a 2nd round pick in the deal, which I feel like definitely evens things out a little bit more. And even though William Nylander I think is the better player than Tyler Bertuzzi, there are instances in which he really frustrates, a lot of Maple Leafs fans, where like he'll just take shifts off, it seems like, or he won't give his 100% effort to chase a puck on an icing or something like that. Those kind of plays rarely ever happen with Tyler Bertuzzi. He's a guy who gives it 110% every single time he steps on the ice, and he does have a little bit of offensive flair to his game as well as being like a grinder. Scored 30 goals this year on a Red Wings team that wasn't very good. I'm sure he could do a lot of damage playing in the Leafs top 6. I'm really intrigued to hear what Leafs fans have to say about this mock trade though. Is this something that you would be okay with if the Leafs did? I'm sure there's going to be a lot of, mixed opinions on it. As a Red Wings fan though, I would love it if this happened, to be honest. Moving along now to the next bold prediction. This comes from Reckman0127. As much as I don't want to see it, at least one of Necas, Trocheck, Niederreiter are not going to be re-signed this offseason. This is definitely one that I can get behind. I feel like if you're Carolina, you definitely prioritize Necas and Trocheck out of that trio, so I feel like the most likely one that won't be coming back is Nino Niederreiter. I feel like Vincent Trocheck is just way too important to Carolina for them to prioritize Niederreiter over him. But on the other hand, Vincent Trocheck is probably going to be a lot more expensive than Nino Niederreiter will be, so it could come down to just cap space and who they can afford and who they can't. Considering the fact that Trocheck is a center, he has a responsible 200-foot game, can kill penalties, is good in the face-off dot, just does a lot of things. I feel like if he does hit the open market and isn't re-signed by Carolina before free agency opens, then it'll be a lot tougher to bring it back, because at that point I feel like it could turn into a bidding war. I feel like a lot of teams are going to be interested in Trocheck. Next up, this bold prediction comes from Samuel, who says Mangiapane or Tkachuk will get an offer sheet which is going to be unmatched by Calgary because of cap problems. The Flames are definitely in for a busy and interesting offseason. Obviously, they got to re-sign Johnny Gaudreau. He's a UFA. Like you said, Mangiapane, Matthew Tkachuk, restricted free agents. I definitely can't see this happening with Matthew Tkachuk, because even if a team offer sheets him, I feel like no matter what it is, Calgary is most likely going to match, because say if Johnny Gaudreau leaves, then Matthew Tkachuk is going to be the face of this team. Mangiapane would definitely be a pretty intriguing offer sheet target, though. He did have 35 goals this season, played all 82 games, but the majority of those 35 goals came in like the first couple of months of the season. He really cooled off towards the end. I could definitely see a team trying to overpay him by maybe like $1 to $2.5 million a season, and then Calgary deciding not to match just because, you know, priority number 1 and 2 should definitely be Johnny Gaudreau and Matthew Tkachuk. So I honestly would be all for this happening. I love offer sheets. I wish they happened more often. I wish teams would take advantage of that part of the game, because it's really just there and nobody ever uses it, you know, up until, you know, Carolina used it with Kotkaniemi. Moving on now to the next bold prediction. This one comes from Matt Gardner, who says Claude Giroux signs in Ottawa, and Ottawa finishes the season in the first wildcard spot in the East. Before Claude Giroux was traded away from the Flyers to the Florida Panthers, there was actually a lot of talk about him potentially signing in Ottawa this offseason. He's from Ontario. There's ties there. I think Claude Giroux would definitely fit the roster. He would complement the top players that they have there nicely, but to me, this one just comes down to if Ottawa deems they can be competitive this upcoming season. If they don't think they can be, then I don't see why they'd go out and sign a guy like Claude Giroux. But hey, Pierre Dorion literally said before this season that the rebuild was over and it was time to start winning, so I'm sure he probably has that same mindset coming into this upcoming season, so hey, anything can happen. And now for the final bold prediction of this video. This one comes from SP, who says both Gaudreau and Forsberg will be on different teams, so predicting that basically the two top UFA forwards are not going to re-sign with their current team. As somebody who's a Red Wings fan and, you know, not really invested in either of these players returning, obviously because I'm not a fan of Calgary or Nashville, I would love this just because it would be pure chaos. It would really suck for Nashville, especially if Forsberg left for nothing, just because I was somebody who thought that they should trade him at the deadline, just because you shouldn't risk losing a player like that for nothing when you're not really in a position to legitimately contend. Even though they did make the playoffs, they did not go anywhere when they got there. That got handled very, very easily by Colorado. And obviously it would suck for the Flames too if they lost Johnny Gaudreau for nothing. He was a Hart Trophy candidate this last season, but at least they weren't in the position Nashville was in, where no one was even considering the thought that Calgary would trade Gaudreau at the deadline, because they were looked at as legitimate contenders. They were my pick to win the Cup. Definitely going to be really interesting to follow both of these names though throughout the offseason, because they're both game changers, especially Gaudreau. Again, Hart Trophy candidate this year. So that is going to wrap up today's video, reacting to your guys' bold predictions for the upcoming NHL offseason. Like I said at the beginning, I do plan on making a video in the coming days giving you guys my bold predictions for the upcoming offseason, so definitely keep an eye out for that. And if you guys did enjoy this video, please be sure to leave it a like. That is the best way to show your support. And most importantly, if this was your first time checking out the channel and you want more NHL content just like this, be sure to hit that subscribe button, and I'll talk to you all soon.